The Battle of Praga, or the Second Battle of Warsaw of 1794, was a Russian assault of Praga, the easternmost suburb of Warsaw, during the Kosciuszko Uprising in 1794. It was followed by a massacre of the civilian population of Praga. Eve of the battle. After the Battle of Massacre, General Tadeusz Kosciuszko was captured by the Russians. The internal struggle for power in Warsaw and the demoralization of the city's population prevented General Joseph Zajaczek from finishing the fortifications surrounding the city both from the east and from the west. At the same time, the Russians were making their way towards the city. Opposing forces. The Russian forces consisted of two battle-hardened corps under generals Alexander Suvorov and Ivan Ferzan. Suvorov took part in the recent Russo-Turkish War, then in the heavy fighting in Polesie and finally in the Battle of Massacre. Ferzan fought for several months in Poland, but was also joined by fresh reinforcements sent from Russia. Each of them had approximately 11,000 men. The Polish forces consisted of a variety of troops. Apart from the rallied remnants of the Kosciuszko's army defeated in the Battle of Massacre, it also included a large number of untrained militia from Warsaw, Praga and Vilna, a 500-man Jewish regiment of Berek Joselewicz, as well as a number of Scythe men and civilians. The forces were organized in three separate lines, each covering a different part of Praga. The central area was commanded directly by General Joseph Zajaczek. The northern area was commanded by Jakub Jasinski and the southern by Władysław Jablonowski. Altogether, the Polish commander had less than 20,000 men. Battle. The Russian forces reached the outskirts of Warsaw on November 3, 1794. Immediately upon arrival, the Russian forces started artillery barrage of the Polish defenses. This made the Polish commander think that the opposing forces were preparing for a long siege. However, Suvorov's plan assumed the fast and concentrated assault on the Polish defenses rather than a bloody and lengthy siege. At 3 o'clock in the morning of November 4, the Russian troops silently reached the positions just outside the outer rim of Polish field fortifications, and 2 hours later started an all-out assault. The Polish defenders were completely surprised, and soon the Polish lines were broken onto several isolated pockets of resistance, bombarded by the Russians with canister shots with a devastating effect. General Zajaczek was slightly wounded and retreated from his post, leaving the remainder of his forces without command. This made the Poles retreat towards the center of Praga and then towards Vistula. The heavy fighting lasted for 4 hours and resulted in a complete defeat of the Polish forces. Joselewicz survived, being severely wounded, but almost all of his command was annihilated. Jasinski was killed fighting bravely on the front line. Only a small part managed to evade encirclement and retreated to the other side of the river across a bridge. Hundreds of soldiers and civilians fell from a bridge and drowned in the process. Massacre. After the battle ended, the Russian troops, against the orders given by Suvorov before the battle, started to loot and burn the entire borough of Warsaw in revenge for the slaughter of the Russian garrison in Warsaw during the Warsaw Uprising in April 1794, when about 2,000 Russian soldiers died. Fadi Bulgarin recalled the words of General Ivan von Klugen, who took part in the Battle of Praga. "We were being shot at from the windows of houses and the roofs, and our soldiers were breaking into the houses and killing all who happened to get in the way. In every living being our embittered soldiers saw the murder of our men during the uprising in Warsaw. It cost a lot of effort for the Russian officers to save these poor people from the revenge of our soldiers. At 4 o'clock, the terrible revenge for the slaughter of our men in Warsaw was complete." Denis Davidov wrote on this. During the assault on Praga, the rage of our troops, who were burning with revenge for the treacherous slaughter of our comrades by the Poles, reached extreme limits. Almost all of the area was pillaged and inhabitants of the Praga district were tortured, raped and murdered. The exact death toll of that day remains unknown, but it is estimated that up to 20,000 people were killed. Suvorov himself wrote, "The whole of Praga was strewn with dead bodies. Blood was flowing in streams. It was thought that unruly Cossack troops were partly to blame for the uncontrolled destruction." Some Russian historians claim that Suvorov tried to stop the massacre by ordering the destruction of the bridge to Warsaw over the Vistula River with the purpose of preventing the spread of violence to Warsaw. But in fact he wanted to stop Polish troops stationing on the left bank from attacking his soldiers. Other historians dispute this. After the battle, the commanders of Warsaw and large part of its inhabitants became demoralized. To spare Warsaw the fate of its eastern suburb, General Thomas Wawrzecki decided to withdraw his remaining forces southwards, and on November 5, Warsaw was captured by the Russians with little or no opposition. It is said that after the battle General Alexander Suvorov sent a report to Catherine the Great consisting of only 3 words: "Hooray! Warsaw is ours." The Empress of Russia replied equally briefly, "Bravo, Field Marshal." Catherine, promoting him to Field Marshal for this victory. The massacre of Praga dented Suvorov and the Russian army's reputation throughout Europe.